Senator Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask you about another part of MAP-21. As you know, it aims to bring transit assets, the equipment, facilities, and so on, into a good state of repair. And the law requires that the FTA create objective standards for measuring progress toward this goal. And once those standards are in place, the law requires the recipients of federal funds to develop plans for executing on those standards. Now, the FTA was supposed to issue objective standards by October 1st of 2013, and it hasn't done so yet. And the delay has put the Massachusetts Department of Transportation in a tight spot. It's working on an asset management plan, doing the responsible thing, but it's reluctant to do too much planning because it still doesn't know what the FTA's objective standards will be. So, Mr. Rogoff, when will the FTA issue a final rule on asset management standards?
As it relates to a final rule, I will get you a target date. It may well be here in my book, but let me just speak more broadly to your observation. Transit asset management was a new and welcomed addition to MAP-21. As I said in my opening statement, we have been hampered somewhat on the resource front, trying to figure out what priorities to put the staff on most urgently. Transit asset management is a very high profile for us, and we did just put out the ANPRM for them to comment on. So just as I said on the safety front, we want to take industry comment so we don't come up with some kind of one-size-fits-all, very rigid approach. We started with an ANPRM to get the industry's input on this. I'll be honest, Senator, I'm in fairly regular contact with Rich Davey at MassDOT and Dr. Beverly Scott, who was just in town yesterday at the MBTA. We're working on many fronts to try to advance things there. They've not voiced that concern to me. Obviously, what we're most critically interested in there is, as you well know, Governor Patrick and the legislature has succeeded in now leveraging new dollars for transportation investment in the Commonwealth, and we want to make sure that they put them to work on the most critical transit infrastructure needs on the T, of which there are many, the Red Line especially, but many others. We'll be working with them. Bev Scott is a real leader in this industry, having done turns in Rhode Island, in MARTA in Atlanta, in California, and we will be looking to her to help inform our approach on how transit asset management can work for big legacy systems like the T.
Well, I appreciate that, and I particularly appreciate your working on the safety standards on the Red Line. I only live a few blocks from the Red Line, and we use it. So I'm grateful for that, but I really do want to emphasize there's a deadline built in. It was supposed to have been October 1st, which means all of the question about pulling in all of the outside, you got to plan against a deadline. And so I just am hopeful that we get this done quickly. I know that you are committed to improving the equipment and making sure we meet the highest safety standards. I know that's also true for the MBTA. So thank you, but I'm really going to keep a thumb in your back on this.
That's fine. I welcome it. I think importantly, I want to be careful on how I phrase this. We have a number of statutory deadlines. I'm not sure they were workable and reasonable when they were put in the first place. We take them as very strong indications from the committee on the priority they put against this. But I think, as you've also heard across the dais, they want us to get industry input before we start writing rules, and we need to strike that balance.
Fair enough. Now, if I can, I want to ask you about one other thing, and that is, broadly speaking, Congress can distribute highway and transit money in two ways. It can distribute money through a formula, which spells out exactly how a particular state and local agency will receive money, or it can leave the distribution of the money at the discretion of the Department of Transportation and then provide grants to different state and local agencies based on a competitive process. Historically, in transportation funding bills, Congress has distributed about 80% of the money through formulas and about 20% as a discretionary matter. But in MAP-21, the number went up to 92% through formula, leaving you with very little discretionary money. So we saw a real move away from discretionary spending. So, Mr. Rogoff, I just want to ask, and I have to ask briefly because I'm running out of time here, do you think the decrease in discretionary funding has hurt the FTA's ability to fund worthwhile projects?
Well, I think it's a little too early to tell that, but I can speak to the problems that have surfaced for the absence of those discretionary dollars. Over 3 years, we were very successful in competing the bus discretionary dollars that we have for bus operators, not only just bus-only operators, but also larger systems that do bus and rail operations. We put out over $2.5 billion over those 3 years, and it was done without earmarks. It was done strictly on a merit-based system, and we felt like we did a very good job. The reduction in, especially on the bus operator side, the loss of discretionary dollars and churning some of those dollars, not all of those dollars, and that has been a source of considerable concern by the bus-only operators who took a financial hit, in their view, through MAP-21. The loss of the discretionary money has meant that when they have large single investments, like it's time to replace a sizable part of their bus fleet or a new maintenance facility, they do not get a sufficient flow of formula dollars to be able to cobble together enough money to make that significant sizable investment. And that's what the discretionary program was for. And that may be something that this committee wants to look at anew as they do reauthorization again.
Okay, thank you very much, because we all want to see the money spent in the most effective way, and whether that means a little more discretion for the agency may accomplish that is something we certainly should be taking a look at. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.